So the Soundcore Space One Pro offer very impressive active noise cancellation, they have a super long battery life, and they're fairly durable, and they have a fun bass-heavy sound signature. But the Soundcore Space One Pro aren't as pro as I'd expect them to be. So today we're going to see how the Pros compare to the base Soundcore Space Ones, which actually have some features I wish the Pro had. We're going on pricing. The Soundcore Space One have a retail price of $100, but they like to go on sale for $80 on a regular basis, and the Soundcore Space One Pro have a retail price of $200, and I expect these headphones to eventually go on sale as well. Nonetheless, if you want to pick either of these two headphones up, they'll be linked down below, or you can always press on the YouTube shopping button. And if you want to further support the channel, pick up some merch. We have trucker hats, snapbacks, and shirts, and everything is printed on higher quality products, so they're gonna last you a good while. And by buying merch, that helps us produce more independent versus videos. Thank you to everyone who's bought a shirt or a hat, and let's get subscribed. So first, there are the cases. Unfortunately, both of these headphones come with carrying pouches. Now, I expect the Space Ones to come with a pouch or with nothing at all, because these are entry-level ANC headphones. However, I do expect the Pros to come with a hardshell case, because hardshell cases are normal for mid-tier ANC headphones now. So with either of these two headphones, if you plan on traveling with them, I do recommend that you get a hardshell case. And the good thing is that since both of these headphones are fully collapsible, they should be able to fit most third-party cases out there rather easily. But with cases out of the way, let's talk about the headphones themselves. Now, both of these headphones have the same general design, but they are very different from one another. First off, the Space Ones are mostly made of lightweight plastic, and these headphones feel very flimsy compared to the Pros, whereas the Pros are much denser and they feel a lot more durable. However, with both of these headphones, you can feel them wobbling around a little bit when you're handling them, so it's a constant reminder that these headphones' construction isn't as refined as some other headphones out there. But strangely enough, I highly prefer the leatherette on the base Space Ones over the Pros. With the Pros, the leatherette feels very plasticky and synthetic, whereas with the base Space Ones, this leatherette feels almost like silicone or soft touch. Now, when it comes to fit, the Space One have a neutral amount of clamping force, whereas the Space One Pro have a slightly firmer fit to them. Now, both of these headphones are big hit approved, but the Space One Pro might be better for working out because of their slightly firmer fit, and like I mentioned earlier, they're more durable as well. But also, like I mentioned earlier, the Space One Pro are denser than the Space Ones because they weigh in at 283 grams, which isn't bad, but they are a little heavier than your average mid-tier or premium ANC headphones, whereas the Space Ones weigh in at 264 grams. So with the Space Ones, you're not going to notice them shifting around on your head as much when you're walking around with them on, and they're a little easier to forget that you're wearing them while you're sitting at your desk or while in bed. And then there are the earpads on these headphones. Both of these earpads have big diameters to them, so if you have large ears, they should have you covered. But the Space Ones are a little more spacious than the Space One Pro, because the Pros are a little more shallow. So if you have ears that stick out a lot, then you might want to go with the base Space Ones. So objectively, the base Space Ones fit better than the Space One Pro, because they have a looser fit, they're lighter, and their earpads are more spacious. But subjectively, I prefer to wear the Space One Pros because these look much sleeker compared to the base Space One. Now, when it comes to battery life, both of these headphones are monsters. Both of the Space One and the Pros have an advertised battery life of 40 hours with active noise cancellation turned on, which is great for commuters and flyers, and with their ANC turned off, the base ones are good for up to 55 hours and the Pros are good for up to 60 hours. And when it comes to charging these headphones, they both charge via a USB-C port as they should, but these USB-C ports are strictly used for charging. You can't use these USB-C ports as a wired connection, but both of these headphones do have a 3.5mm audio jack, and they come included with an audio cable, so you can always still use them with a wired connection that way, and you can use these headphones passively if you want. But when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, both of these headphones can be connected to any two Bluetooth devices at the same time, regardless of ecosystem, which is good if you're a power user because you can easily hot swap from one device to another if you have an iPhone and a Windows PC. And when it comes to overall performance, both of these headphones have zero latency across the board when watching movies or videos on your phone, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device. And when it comes to audio codecs, both of these headphones have support for SBC, AAC, and LDAC, which is Sony's own in-house high-res audio codec. Just keep in mind that if you do want to use LDAC, you do have to be an Android user because iPhones top out at AAC. LDAC is also going to take an additional toll on the battery life, and if you do decide to use LDAC, then these headphones can only be connected to one device at a time. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about sound. Now, with both of these headphones, you can go into their app and you can either choose from a few pre-made EQs or you can make your own. But in general, both of these headphones sound good enough to get the job done, but both of these headphones can sound a little narrow because they don't have the best instrument separation. They put an emphasis on the vocals and bass, and the instrumentals take a back seat. But when it comes to overall performance, these headphones still sound very different from one another. The Space One sound a little more harsh because the highs are a lot more emphasized and the bass is much more intense and it resonates a lot, but it can be overpowering and it can muddy the rest of the music. Whereas with the Pros, these also have a bass heavy sound signature, but they do a much better job by comparison of controlling the bass, and the highs aren't as harsh. So the Pros sound more balanced and less artificial. So overall, both of these headphones are better options for people that like a more bass heavy sound signature because their instrument separation isn't as good. But with the Pros, you are going to get a better overall listening experience because they do a better job of controlling their bass and they sound more balanced. Now, when it comes to the media controls on these headphones, they're both using the same physical buttons, which is fine. But the really strange thing here is the bass Space Ones have wear sensors, so when you take them off, they'll automatically pause your music, and when you put them back on, they'll start playing your music again. Now, personally, I don't really care for wear sensors on my headphones, but I find it very strange that the Space One Pro don't have wear sensors. But now let's talk about the active noise cancellation on these headphones. Now, both of these headphones block out an impressive amount of noise for entry-level and mid-tier ANC headphones. But so that you can see for yourself, we're going to go ahead and jump into the ANC test. So like we have just seen, the Pros are able to block out a little more noise than the bass Space One. Specifically, they do a better job of dealing with noise on the higher end. Now, even though both of these headphones block out an impressive amount of noise, they do so with a little more cabin pressure compared to other headphones on the market. Now, the cabin pressure on these headphones isn't a problem, but more premium headphones are able to block out the same amount of noise or a little more with less cabin pressure on your eardrums, which overall just leads to a more comfortable experience. But nonetheless, both of these headphones are great options for your bus ride commute or while you're having lunch in the cafeteria. And both of these headphones also have an ambient mode, and you can adjust how much noise these headphones let in, and the microphone array on both of these headphones do a really good job of rejecting wind noise when walking outdoors. However, the ambient mode on the Pros sounds a lot more natural than the ambient mode on the bass Space Ones, but regardless, they both work well. But another major difference between these headphones is Easy Chat. Now, on both of these headphones, you can activate Easy Chat with just your voice, like this. Hello there. So this is Easy Chat. Basically, when you start talking, these headphones will automatically lower the volume of the music and pump in all of the ambient sound around you so that you can quickly talk to someone without even to have to touch the headphones themselves. And Easy Chat actually works very fast. Now, these headphones will stay in this state for a preset determined amount of time, which you can adjust through the app. But unfortunately, you can't manually deactivate Easy Chat. You have to wait for it to go back to its normal state after you stop talking, like this. So with both of these headphones, you can activate Easy Chat with just your voice, but I don't like to use it because it's very easy to accidentally activate it, and you can't manually deactivate Easy Chat, so you have to wait the full 5, 10, or 15 seconds. But with the bass space ones, you can manually activate Easy Chat by covering the left ear cup, and when you let go, the headphones will go back to normal again. And again, I prefer to manually activate Easy Chat because there are never any mistakes, and again, I find it very strange that the pros don't have this option, and I really wish that they did. But finally, here's the microphone test, and I feel that both of these headphones have decent sounding microphones on them to take phone calls with while in a quiet room. However, I do think the Soundcore Space One Pro have a slightly better clarity to them while in a quiet room. And both of these microphones do a really good job of dealing with noise pollution, because right now, these microphones are doing a good job of reducing all of this road noise. Because for comparison's sake, if we were to switch over to my lapel microphone, you're going to clearly hear all of this road noise. But if we were to switch back over to the Soundcore Space One Pro, this road noise is severely reduced. But oddly enough, I think the bass Soundcore Space Ones do a better job of dealing with this road noise. And I also think that the bass Soundcore Space Ones do a better job of dealing with this chatter because there isn't as much interference going on with my voice. Because with the Soundcore Space One Pro, I feel that these are letting in more chatter and they have a little bit more interference with my voice. So overall, I think the Space One Pro have a better clarity to them while in a quiet room. But the bass Space Ones do a better job of dealing with noise pollution. So with all that being said, both of these headphones give you a really big bang for your buck, and they're both great options for frequent flyers and commuters because they both block out a lot of noise and they both have a super long battery life. And the pros do have their improvements like better sound quality, better build quality, and they look much sleeker as well. But I find it odd that the bass space ones have wear sensors, you can manually activate Easy Chat, and they block out almost as much noise. So yes, the Space One Pros have their improvements over the base model, but they aren't as pro as I would expect. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.